Let's get started. Thank you all for coming. Again, I wanted to introduce you to Peggy and Andy from Pano Education. Their focus today is going to be on what they do as their company, but also focusing on options for applying to universities in Asia, if parents are interested in that as an option, not just applying to the U.S. And then after their presentation, I'll be available to take any questions you have about Morrison specific college application questions. Okay? So the floor is yours, Peggy. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming. Hi, presentation. Just really quickly in the beginning, does everybody prefer Mandarin or English? 比较希望听中文还是英文？都可以。
For the video, please English.
English, all right,
yeah.
Perfect.
And then if they have questions in Mandarin that you can answer in Mandarin, that's fine.
Right.
For the presentation, please English.
Got it, perfect. All right, that actually makes it easier for me. But thank you guys so much for coming today. I'm here to talk about us, your Pano Education, but also to talk about a few pathways students could take that may be within or outside of the U.S. A little bit about me. So once upon a time, I was also an international student. Although I am Taiwanese, I grew up in the Middle East, so I lived in Dubai for 15 years. Very, very grateful to be able to study abroad for college. I completed my undergraduate studies at UC Berkeley, very sunny California, where I was double major studying linguistics and French. For us, for Pano, we believe in our philosophy called sideways. Now, a lot of our students actually come to us asking me, all right, Peggy, what do I do to get into MIT? What do I do to get into Harvard? But we believe that students should just keep on doing that, right? Instead of reverse engineering their process, they should find things that they're passionate about. They should find things that they really enjoy, right? And as counselors, that's what we're here to help them. We're here to help them find direction, but also to provide them with all the necessary resources in order to take that purpose, to take that direction to the next step. And we believe that as long as we can help these students become better students, then naturally they will get better scores and get into better universities, and universities that are a good fit for them. Very briefly about our team. So our team is actually based full-time in Taiwan. We have offices in both Taipei and Taichung. And here are a few of the teammates I've worked with. Andy, they're in the back with us today. Chase over here, he just finished his master's from Harvard and is working from our Taichung office. And then we have Azusa, who has over 10 years of teaching standardized tests. She's the only person I know with a PhD and came back to teach SAT. So our team is pretty amazing. We also work with a few professors who are based in the U.S. Now these professors come here over summer to teach classes here for us. So as we all know, this summer, due to COVID-19, pre-college programs are being canceled in the States. So we replicated that class over here in Taiwan and had real U.S. professors teaching these classes for us. We'll talk a little bit about those programs later on in the presentation today. We mainly focus on 3 programs. So we have test prep, we have mentorship and college counseling. The test prep and mentorship programs are mainly here to be resources that we talked about earlier to help students excel in their tests, to help them find their passion and build upon those passions through one-on-one mentorship by our mentors who are either counselors or professors. And then our college counseling helps students apply for a wide range of universities, both within the U.S. and outside. Really briefly about our test prep program, our test prep helps students prepare for the standardized tests, so the SATs, ACTs, and APs. We offer both one-on-one and one-on-one and group classes in person and online. Our group classes are held in our classrooms in Taipei and Taichung. Our one-on-one are also held in our classroom or held online, depending on the preference of the students. The way our group classes are designed as you notice, our group classes are only 20 to 30 hours long. That is in-person class time. That's not counting the mock test and the one-on-one review sessions. Our classes are structured this way so that our students can have the rest of their summer freed up in order to pursue extracurricular. As we all know, summers or winters are a very crucial time for students in their personal development and college application journeys. So we don't want them locked in a classroom all summer. We want them to be able to learn about the SAT, but also use the remainder of their time to go out there and do community service, do projects, and do something that they are passionate about, that they enjoy doing. So as I said, our class is structured that way to free up time for extracurriculars. Unlike many other test prep centers in Taiwan, I know craft schools and Shih are really big in here. Our programs are designed so that the students can learn how to answer these questions and how to troubleshoot, how to pinpoint where they're weak at, and continue growing even after our class without the need to come back for more classes or tutors. That being said, in our classes, we don't just do mock tests and answers. We teach them the entire range of skills they need to analyze tests, to understand the different question types, to get into the minds of the test takers so they know how to pick up the trap answers and how to approach each different type of passage and each different types of questions. Here are some of the results for this winter, or last winter. This was our February class last year. As you can see, our students have an average improvement of about 250 points, mainly in the English, because we noticed that Taiwanese students struggle a little bit more with the English section than they do with the math. So our class is structured to help students tackle the English section a little bit more. We actually just finished our summer courses in August, and over summer our highest score improvement is about 400 points, right? 400 points for students, and our average score increase over the summer is also about 200 points over all of our different courses. We had about 8 classes this summer. So as we said, our classes are all concept-based, so instead of doing questions over and over, I think over here we'll call them Shrati and Jintal, right? We help them understand how the SAT is structured. Let's focus on the English sections, reading and writing, and also the essay. So we do help the student with the essay component, and we focus less on the math. And our classes are all small group classes, so about 6 to 8 students per class. And our classes are sorted by grades. So every student with their cohort will be no more than about 150 points apart. Right? That way each class is very bespoke to all of our students. This is a really brief overview of our own curriculum. We have our own set of textbooks written by our instructors and our in-house curriculum developers. We do so because we understand that Taiwanese students face a very different set of struggles than do the average American high schooler or foreign high schooler. So when we design our curriculum, it is very student-centric. We keep in mind what are the problems that our students face and how we can best address those. So that's test prep. As we talked about before, we also do a lot of mentorship programs. We do so because, to me at least, when I came to Asia, I observed that so many students here are only focused on the SATs or the APs. They're only focused on how they do academically, that a lot of them neglect extracurriculars. Unfortunately, extracurriculars or fortunately, it is one of the most important parts when it comes to applying for universities in the US. Which is why we came up with the idea of bringing extracurricular resources here to Taiwan. So many students, so many parents think that applying to university is a checklist. We do some community service, some sports, some music, and then they apply. Right? But in actuality, it's a lot more than that. Universities want to look not just for consistency, but also for impact when it comes to extracurriculars. This is why through our mentorship programs, we help students come up with their own passion projects or come up with ways to help students deepen their knowledge, whether that is in a particular academic field or in an extracurricular activity that they might be very, very passionate about.
So you mentioned you're talking about not only the music or the other two, but more than that.
More than that, yeah. For example, this summer we helped one of our students launch his own startup. Not only did we help him launch his own startup, he was accepted into AppWorks, one of the biggest startup accelerators in Southeast Asia. He was accepted as the youngest founder in their history at age 17. We help students build, a lot of our students are interested in engineering, so we help them out, we help them build their robotics projects, we help them attend competitions. For students who are interested in research, we pair them up with professors to write research papers with the possibility of getting published. So we help these students dive a lot deeper in their extracurriculars than what most of them can do on their own. Yeah. For students interested in music, for example, which is a lot of our students, we help them scale up their impact. For example, one of our students this year, she's always played the cello, she's always loved the cello, and she's a master performer. But at the same time, she also has a very big heart to help the community. So what we help her do is we helped her set up a series of charity concerts. And with the money she earned from the tickets of these concerts, she donated them to COVID relief. So to help students demonstrate their passion, help them demonstrate purpose through ways like this. Some of the professors we work with, apart from the two mentioned in the earlier slide, these are some examples of professors that do one-on-one mentorship with their students. Now, since most of these professors are based in the US, over the semester, the mentorship program will happen online with them. Over summer, a few of them do fly over to Taiwan to help us teach classes, our pre-college classes, and also to mentor our students one-on-one doing projects, such as helping them write papers or helping them do research. This summer we had master classes since pre-college and summer programs got canceled and nobody was able to travel. So we got very lucky. We invited 3 professors to come teach for us. Professor Paul Tiffany from Alma Mater, Berkeley, Josh Chodes from UC San Diego, and Professor Mohammed Sultana from Boston University. They taught classes on computer science, business, and visual arts. For next summer, we're also planning to bring them back here to Taiwan to teach in-person college classes. The other part of our mentorship is more hands-on and a lot more practical. So not all of our students are natural researchers, and not all of our students might want to spend their summer writing papers. A lot of our more business-oriented or entrepreneurship-oriented students might want to take that summertime or take their free time to obtain some work experience. In order to help them do that, we partner up with a lot of startups in Taipei or in Taiwan, and we do mentorship project placements for our students. So through our EMP program, our students do work one-on-one with C-level executives, usually the founders of our startup, and in their startup, they're able to create their own projects. We deliberately choose to partner up with startup companies because that way students can have a lot more impact within the team. Startups are usually more willing to let our students take ownership over their projects and be able to be more involved in it. So they'll be more than just the copy and printer intern, right? When they go intern in large companies. So all of that, so we do all of our test prep, we do all of our mentorship in order to help our students succeed when it comes to college applications. And all of that doesn't just apply to the US. A lot of other countries, such as Australia, the UK, will also look at your standardized tests, such as your SATs, and they will also look at your extracurriculars and work experience. Our college counseling program, while most of our counselors come from top universities in the US, we have also helped students apply to a wide range of schools, including Singapore, UK, Australia, Hong Kong. Our college counseling program is slightly different from usual. So every student gets 2 counselors. One of them will be the strategy consultant, who will help them build their resume, who will help them find extracurricular opportunities and guide them towards the right resources, and also help them curate a balanced college list. The other counselor is the essay editor. So our essay editor is here to help students become better writers through the process of writing the college essays. Our program starts from the second semester of grade 11, so around spring semester, and lasts all the way until they get their college acceptances. Along the way, we'll also help them with interviews and scholarship search if needed. We designed our college counseling program because we noticed a few challenges, particularly international students face. I myself used to be an international student. I did not attend an American school in Dubai. I attended a Lebanese school. So my college counselor did not have any idea how to apply to the US. Out of my graduating class, only 10 of us decided to go to the States. So I was left on my own to figure a lot of these things out. And when we came to Asia, we realized so many students were facing the same struggles. So when we train our counselors, when we find our counselors, we're looking for people who could best help fill in these gaps that international students are missing. Our college counselors will help them find the schools or programs that are most suitable for them, including a lot of our students choose to go to 3+2 programs. So 3 years at liberal arts college and 2 years at a research university, or 4+1 program where you get both your bachelor's and master's in 5 years. Some of our students also go for special programs like accelerated medical programs or rotational business programs, etc. So we do help our students find the schools and the majors or programs that are best for them. On top of that, we'll help them balance out their colleges so that they're not applying to all reaches, but also they're applying to a range of schools that they will find challenging and rewarding when they go to college. To help our counselors and students, we developed our own AI platform that curates data from the common data set, which is the institutional data that universities use every year. So over here we have an example of section number C7 from the CDS. This one's for UC Berkeley. And as you guys can see, at Cal, what they value most in the student's application, what they consider in a very important section, are mainly the academic section. This chart looks a little different from all of the schools. This helps us best guide the students in order to help them focus on what they need in order to gain admission to their dream school or dream university. This information could also be found online as well. But for us, we make sure that our counselors are rightly guided in how we mentor our students. So this one's for Berkeley. The next one's NYU. So as we see, it looks a little different. So while NYU also considers most of the academics to be very important, they also consider talent and ability as one of the very important sections. NYU does consider what we call level applicants interest, which is demonstrated interest, whereas for Berkeley, that is not one of the criteria when evaluating students. So this is our own database of universities. We have over 400 to 500 schools on there that helps us analyze what each university looks for. Today, I heard that a lot of parents are here to listen to how to apply to universities that might not be in the US. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk a little bit about what options we have in Taiwan. Right? So for example, a lot of students this year gained admissions into the US, so they applied before COVID-19 happened, but the semester turned virtual, it's online. So So a lot of them are actually opting to be visiting scholars during their first semester or freshman year in Taiwanese universities such as NTU. So that is actually also an option too, which we'll talk about in a moment. Some of the more popular universities to apply to outside the US include UK, Singapore, Australia, Canada. Okay? So we'll touch upon each of these areas briefly. One of the biggest difference for all of these other areas compared to the US is that most of these other countries are highly academic focused. So they will care about your grades, your standardized test scores a lot more. Unlike the US, the UK has a pretty strict cutoff. So if your GPA, your grades, or standardized test scores do not reach a certain bar, you're almost guaranteed to not be admitted into these schools. However, on the flip side, if all of your stats or your standardized test scores, GPA, are above the cutoff, then it is almost guaranteed that the student will gain admission. The UK is a little different from the US. We can only apply to up to a maximum of 5 universities in the UK. Students are not allowed to apply to both Cambridge and Oxford at the same time. So they do make you choose. Similar to the Common App, the UK universities use a platform called the UCAS, the UCAS. On there, they will be asked to submit a personal statement of 1,000 to 4,000 characters, which calculates to about the same length as the US personal statement. So we can apply up to 5 universities. It is highly focused on the academics, but unlike most of the US schools, every program has a different set of requirements. So for example, to apply for Imperial Engineering, the requirements will be different compared to Imperial History or as a math major, right? So all of these programs will have different requirements. Most of the things you need to prepare will be the same, but the main difference will be the amount and the subjects that the students have to take for their APs or SAT tests. Since students coming out of Morrison will go through an American curriculum, this is an example of what Imperial College looks for the advanced placement system schools. So they want to see a minimum of 3 to 4 APs with grades of 5, but the subjects for these APs will differ depending on the program that they're applying to. So for example, engineering and business programs will look specifically for calculus, engineering also for physics, whereas other programs may not have these requirements. Next is Australian universities. Australian universities are quite popular among Taiwanese students because they're closer compared to the US. Funny fact, Australia used to be like the least popular in Dubai because there was no direct flight, less than 15 hours. But really interesting, when I came to Taiwan, a lot of students want to go to Australia. I also realized how close it is to Taipei. But Australian universities, one of the major differences is the fact that their semesters are flipped. So their first semester actually starts at the beginning of the year. And their second semester starts and later on after summer, their fall semester. Or I guess to them it's spring. But similar to the UK, Australian schools focus on looking at the students' grades. So they will post a minimum score cutoffs for each program. Most Australian schools do not require essays, so it's just an application form, and they have 2 intake cycles. So you can apply to start in either the spring or the fall. So there's 2 chances to apply in the year. However, there are some programs, like most engineering programs, will force the students to start semester 1. Meaning students graduating from American schools in June will have to wait till the following March to officially start their school year. Can you repeat that? So some programs will require the students to start in semester 1, which for them is around Feb to March.
Semester 1 will be in January, right?
Yeah, and around March for them.
Around March.
Yeah.
I see. So you have to apply.
They'll be applying around January.
Around January.
but they're graduating high school in May or June. May.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
kind of confusing.
It's a little confusing.
Yeah.
So they'll have to wait until the following year. So because March, senior year, they'll still be in high school, and they graduate in May, but school will not start until next March. So there's a little bit of a gap.
Okay, but there are two application timelines there.
Yeah,
So they can apply for semester two, they can enter the university in semester two.
they can, but some programs will not let them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so some programs, such as most engineering or medical programs, will ask them to start semester one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they have to wait for the next semester one.
I see.
A lot of Australian schools also provide foundation or prep programs. They're a little different. So foundation programs are for students who haven't met the English component. So they will spend about anywhere between 1 semester to 2 years doing foundation before officially enrolling in the university. However, some schools like Sydney also have what we call the prep programs. Prep programs are for higher achieving students, and they will spend about 18 to 32 weeks in the prep program and enroll directly into the following semester. Thereby not losing any time, they're not losing any time when it comes to graduating. Yes. The only test that students are required to prepare for the UK is the English proficiency test, so the IELTS or the TOEFL, Australia, but students are also encouraged to take the SAT as well.
So for our senior class this year, if they want to apply for Australian university, when they should submit their application, that's the beginning of next year, or would that be correct?
Yes. So for current 12th graders, current seniors, the application window will be from January 2021 to Feb 2021. So that's the window to apply. If they apply within this window,
But they will enroll in 2022.
their application window is June after graduating.
Oh.
Yeah, to enroll in September.
To enroll in September, but for certain, like as you said,
If they're applying for semester two.
For semester
but
two.
they are applying for semester one. They are.
They need to wait until
Then they would have to wait.
next year.
So they
They would
have
have to
to
wait
apply
until
in 2022.
Yes. So if they apply in January 2021, they need to start university March 2021.
But you
But that's not possible because they'll still be in high school.
okay.
Therefore, they should be applying for semester two, which starts in 2021 June.
Okay, but for certain majors or certain area, they are not allowed to enter in semester two, right? But for those students, they have to
Wait
wait
till
till
next year.
next 2022.
Exactly.
And there, you said there's a prep program,
Yes.
and that will be, when should they apply for that prep program?
So if their IELTS or TOEFL score did not meet the cutoff, then they will be required to go on foundation programs. So for example, in Sydney, many programs have an IELTS score of 6.5. And some students might not meet that cutoff. Therefore, before they enroll, they need to do an intensive English language foundation
Okay.
before they
That's the
officially.
prep program.
That's the foundation program.
Oh, okay.
TOEFL is required for all overseas students.
Yes, TOEFL or the IELTS. It's one or the other. It's more or less the same thing. They'll have different, they'll have corresponding score requirements for TOEFL and IELTS. And then a lot of our parents ask about Taiwanese universities. So for Taiwanese universities, it's a little bit more complicated because they're both English programs and Chinese programs. And in order for students to be considered an international student, they cannot hold ROC nationality. If they are a dual citizen or if they are a Taiwanese national, then there are other criteria. For example, Different programs will also have different requirements. So generally, to apply for English programs, the students are required to take an English proficiency test, such as a TOEFL. In order to qualify for the Chinese program, they need a Chinese proficiency test, the TOCFL. To prove that they have the level of language ability. Just like UK, Taiwanese universities have different program requirements depending on the school. So for example, at Taiga at NTU, one of their only English program is actually engineering. They have 20 seats every year for foreign students, for international students, and that quota may change. In order to apply for this program, they will need the proficiency test, they will need a high school diploma and transcript, as well as pass an oral interview, as well as pass a spoken interview. For some other programs, such as in the School of Liberal Arts, students can choose to enroll in a foreign language major. Okay? Then on top of that, they will need 2 letters of recommendation, they will need to write an essay, and they will need to send a video introduction, answering a few questions about themselves. In general, for most of the universities in other countries, the requirements are quite similar. So earlier I heard there are students who are interested in Korea and also in Japanese universities. All of these countries offer English and non-English programs. And the requirements of non-English programs generally require a language test, an interview. And in some countries, such as for Korean universities, you can use your acceptances from other countries as supplementary material to show them. Yeah, that was really cool. Yes?
The expansion you mentioned on Taiwanese universities, is it pretty recent?
This one,
Because
yes.
I have heard a different story, just recent years, past 1 or 2 years.
This one's yesterday.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Is that how they're allowed American school students? I'm not sure it has to be non-Taiwanese citizen or not, but they do accept applicants from American schools for the SAT test results.
So it depends on.
And the universities are, I guess, just recently, one by one, they're opening up this type of programs available to
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
So this is very recent.
Right. So.
Many of the universities are not even available yet as we speak, but they are all working on this type of programs.
Yeah, so the type of program that you're mentioning, so just this year, a lot of Taiwanese universities open visiting scholar programs. So for students who graduate from American school who have been admitted to universities abroad but are unable to go abroad, they open visiting scholar programs. So a lot of my Shih from Berkeley, a lot of people I know, they're doing their first semester, freshman year at NTU or at Tsinghua, and these credits are able to be transferred into their home university. Yeah.
那叫做新冠方法。
新闻
Yeah, because it's COVID-19, so they have this special. A lot of universities they have this special program, but you need to admit from outside of the United States.
and research was.
Oh.
Yeah, so
For like visiting scholar program that you're talking about, do the student actually go to NTU and Tsinghua for taking classes?
Yes. Yes.
And then the credit actually transfer
Yes.
once they go to the States?
Yeah. So a selected list of classes will allow these students to transfer their credit. Yeah. And that is approved by both the whole university and the Taiwanese university. And they will be able to use all the facilities at NTU, such as the classrooms, the lab, and take classes with NTU students, just like any study abroad experience. Yeah. So they're essentially doing their first semester abroad. It's really cool.
And so that's what they understand, that they're already accepted to a U.S. university, or another, and they're just, is it just 1 semester? Or set it up to a
For
year?
now, 1 semester to 1 year.
Okay,
Yeah.
but then NTU knows that they're going to
Yeah.
the States.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the transcript and the credits will transfer as well. If there are any other questions about either program in the US or outside the US, we could leave till the end of the presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. This is a really quick overview of our college counseling program. This could also be found in the orange packet that we handed out, as well as on our website. So we don't just help our students with the application process, but also with helping them find scholarships, helping them do interviews, as well as giving them all the data that they need to analyze the schools. Over the past 2 years, we've been very lucky. Some of our students have been accepted into the top schools, with both within and outside of the U.S. So last year, 2 of our students got into Stanford, and a lot of our students have been accepted into Ivies as well as some of the top schools. This is within the U.S. And then outside of the U.S., we've helped students into some of the best universities in North Australia, Canada, the UK, right, and also help them apply to English programs at Waseda in Japan, and also Yale in the US. Outside of our programs, as an educational company, we want to make sure that we're also supporting the community around us. So we give back to nonprofits and work with nonprofits to help students in the community be more engaged. And these are some of the nonprofits that we work with. Cool. And then I'll open up the rest of the time for any questions that anybody has, whether that is relating to college applications, our programs, or standardized tests, etc. Okay, questions for Andy?
Is that possible? You can talk about universities in Singapore?
In Singapore, yeah. So Singapore universities are actually quite similar to the UK. In fact, a lot of Singaporean schools go by the A levels, which is the British system. So just like the UK, we'll have to look at the programs in the school. Yeah. I think in Taiwan we also apply programs, not university. Every program will have a different set of requirements, but generally they will require a language proficiency test, so TOEFL or the IELTS. They will ask for SAT, and as well as a range of APs if coming from our system. For medical programs in particular, from both the UK and Singapore, students might be required to take either the UCAT or the BMAT, which is the medical exam, in order to enroll. Okay. So the process is more or less the same, yeah, and the timeline is also more or less the same. Application closed Jan 15th. Application will close January 15th.
Okay, January 15th.
Yeah.
How open is it for the medical program?
For
Because I heard that it's very
competitive.
I know it's competitive, but more than competitive, I heard there's no room, no quota for international students. Is that true?
Yes. So there are very limited quotas in Singapore for non-national student role, especially for the medical program. In terms of how much quota there is, I do not think, at least in the US, does not publish it. Yeah. So we do not know how much or how many students international students they will accept. But in general, if we're talking about the top universities in Singapore, in the US, or my nationality, the students generally have to have the academic equivalent of getting to top US universities. So about 1,500 about SAT, 100 TOEFL, as well as 4 to 5 on the APs.
How many?
Depends on the matter. It is generally 4 to 5 APs, and 4s and 5s on the 4 to 5 APs.
Okay. Okay. I see.
Yeah, very intense.
Would UK easier than
easy or harder. On top of all the application materials for Oxbridge, there is an entrance exam, that the students need to pass. So they might get their offer, but if they fail the entrance exam, they still cannot enroll at the university.
Actually, how easy is for students who are in the American syllabus and move to a university who's British syllabus, outside of American syllabus, all of that?
Sorry?
I mean, the students here are teaching on American syllabus, right?
Yes.
And if the university they can move to a non-American, like British, how easy is for them to adapt to that? Because it's two different teaching approach, materials, so it could be different as well. How easy is for them to adapt to it?
I see. So if they go from a U.S. high school to a British university, in terms of adapting to the material, they shouldn't have any issue. However, the biggest difference at a UK college compared to the U.S. is the fact that it is very difficult for students to change their majors in the UK. Whereas in the U.S., it is quite easy, or fairly easy, for students to switch the major or to double major and minor. In the UK, if students need to change their, should they want to change the major, they might have to repeat from the first year. So they have to be very certain that they want to study this particular major because they're not allowed to change. But in terms of the academic difficulty, I guess, any top UK university will be equally as challenging as any top US university. So they shouldn't have a problem adapting. It's just the curriculum will be different. A lot of American universities have a liberal arts core, meaning on top of what they study for their major, they are required to take classes from different disciplines. So for example, although I study linguistics at Berkeley, I was still required to take a biological science class and a physical science class, 7 different types of classes. Whereas in the UK, there is usually no such requirement. For better or for worse. Any other questions that we can answer?
I have a question.
Yes.
You're talking about like Australian universities and Singapore universities. They all require our students to take the TOEFL IELTS tests. But because we're an American school, is it possible for students to waive that requirement? Is there like a kind of a statement saying that if you study
For all 4 years of high school in the American curriculum, a lot of U.S. universities let students do that. As far as I know, most Australian schools will still want the IELTS test because that's how long the determined foundation program is for these students. So for safety, they should still take the exam. Coming up from American school, they should have no problem with the TOEFL or IELTS. Similarly, a lot of U.S. universities will let students waive the language requirement if they have a U.S. passport, but that method of waiving the requirement does not exist in Australia.
Your program started grade 11.
Yes.
So, like for our kids, it's like grade 12. And did you make a few or?
Yes. So for 12th graders right now, if they're applying for the U.S., it's going to be quite rushed. So there's a lot of catch up that we need to play. But if for our 12th graders, we're here mainly to help them with their essays and their application. There might not be a lot of things that is left for us to do when it comes to extracurriculars. Early after due in about a month and a half. And regulars are due at the end of the semester. They're already 1 month in the semester. So for extracurriculars, there might be very limited ways we can help them. We can help them package and tell the stories for the activities they're currently involved in and help them with their essays.
So, when is the best time to take SAT or ACT for college they choose between them?
Yeah, great question. So our students all have different timelines. Usually, they will take their first SAT in the fall semester of their junior year. Generally, that's when students take their first SAT. Some students take it earlier. I recommend students take their first SAT after they complete Algebra 2. Just because of math will cover onto Algebra 2. Yeah. That being said, I do see students take their SAT as early as 9th grade. I think Andy did that. He took it 7th grade. Yeah, but usually as 7th grade students have not covered all the material. Yeah, so that's quite early. Yeah. So as in terms of timeline, I think that will depend on when the student covers what they need to cover. They can take the SAT up to a maximum of 3 times. Yeah. I will not encourage them to take it more than 3 times. Yeah. In terms of deciding between SAT and ACT, the best way to find out is to take a mock test in both and see how they do. Yeah. While the content is mainly the same, the ACT is done on the computer, so that throws some students off. The ACT is more of a time pressure test. On average, each student gets about 1:20 for every question on the SAT, but a minute or less for every question on the ACT. Yeah. So if the student works better under a time crunch, right? They might be a better fit for the ACT. So I think there's a lot of factors come into play. The best way to decide is for the student to take a mock SAT and a mock ACT and see how they feel about both of them. They will usually get about a similar score, but feel very differently on the test. Yeah.
The ACT also has a dedicated science portion,
Yes.
whereas the SAT, you would have to take the SAT 2 subject tests for science.
You can, our program will differ depending on the program and depending on when the student joins. So we can maybe schedule a one-on-one chat. I will also understand more about your child's background as well as the types of help that they might need, and then we could give you I'll give you a fee after a one-on-one discussion.
Can you give us a feel of it? You're going to be specific. I know you're going to be categorized, catered to different child, but just give a feel of it. I think that everybody is sort of interested in this.
Okay. For our college counseling program, it is 220,000 in TE flat. Yeah. So it's college counseling. For our SAT test prep, it's about 49,000, and that includes unlimited mock tests, all the hours of class, as well as one-on-one meetings.
About the counseling include the whole thing, from like the second semester of the year to
Yes. And some of our students choose to start their counseling early. So especially for students who would like help with their extracurriculars, building their extracurriculars, some of our students will come to us and be like, I don't know what I want to do. So we'll help them explore that. Some of our students are picking between a few options, but feel like they don't have a way to decide what to do. So they want to start earlier. Yeah. And we can do that as well. Yeah. Okay. So the earliest we start counseling is grade 9. Yeah. So that's the earliest we do. We start counseling program from 9th grade. Yeah. Starting from 9th grade, we'll help students apply to summer programs as well as fill in all of their summer breaks and winter breaks with meaningful activities. Yeah. So in the past, a lot of our students choose to spend their summer in the U.S. They'll attend competitive summer programs like YYGS, Yale Young Global Scholars, or choose to do pre-college at Columbia or UCLA or any university of their choice. We help them with all of their applications to that. This year, a lot of our students opted to choose to stay in Taiwan. Well, they didn't opt, they had to stay in Taiwan. Yeah. So we help schedule summer activities for them to do. Yeah. Whether that is a project with EMP with one of our startups, or an internship, or taking classes for college credit or not for credit. way to boost their resume. Yeah. So we'll give them options. For 2021, our students will always have plan A and plan B. Yeah. For 2020, we had students accepted into Stanford summer, which was very competitive, but couldn't go. Yeah, which is really sad. So they took some classes online from Stanford and then did some activities in Taiwan as well.
The test prep, what kind of program you offer? Only for SAT or you have test prep for other tests?
Yeah, so we have group classes for SAT and SAT subject tests, and then we do one-on-one for SAT subjects, AP and IBs.
I see. Okay, you were
test actually 没有，是在学生的本里面。Yeah, so that one has our counselors and our test prep instructors. In Taiwan, our test prep is mainly headed by Azusa, who graduated from Yale, and Chase, who graduated from Berkeley for his undergrad and Harvard for his education masters. Yeah. So those are the main teachers teaching in Taiwan. But we also have subject teachers depending on the subject. Yeah. So we'll have chemistry teachers who teach chem, bio who teach bio, and they're all our teachers are graduates from top 20 universities and all experts in their respective fields.
How about this summer master class?
Yeah. So this summer, the same three professors will be coming back. So Professor Muhammad Sultana Ha from Boston University, Professor Paul Tiffany from Berkeley, and Professor Josh Thomas from UCSD. On top of these three professors, we are also working to invite more professors to come to teach classes on humanities and the social science. Yeah.
So, again, what's the fee?
The fee this
so when, for example, do you restrict which grade can they take?
So for 2020's master class, most of our students come from grades 10 and 11. Because we do want them to have a certain level of academic ability to be working with these professors. In terms of the timeline, we'll be opening our Senos master class in the spring semester. Yeah, so that's when we confirm the roster of our professors. Hopefully they will be able to come into Taiwan. And then they'll obviously have to go through a quarantine of the process to come in. But we'll confirm the roster in the spring semester and let the parents know. Yeah. Other questions? Okay. If there are other questions that you want to ask, I'll leave a staff out with my business card in the front, and you're welcome to come chat with us one-on-one. I speak Mandarin, Japanese, if anybody needs like support.